105 of I Be Suffer. My name is Nathan.
I'm Kit.
I am Katie.
And this week we are talking with Santa Jaws director and I Hope You Suffer fave, Misty Talley.
Hey guys!
Thank you for being on. How is 2020 treating you?
Oh man, it's a wild ride. I always knew I'd end up in a dystopian cyberpunk future, so it's been pretty rad.
It's quite a year, that's for sure.
Yeah,
I'm selling it a
bit.
Yeah.
Before we start, I just want to say, I don't know if you have unfortunately listened to any of our episodes, but we absolutely adore you and we talk about you all the time. We did Santa Jaws last year.
Yeah, for the Christmas episode.
Yeah, in December, and we talk about you pretty much every episode, so this is super exciting for us.
Guys, thank you. I did listen to the Santa Jaws episode. Yeah. It's been a while, but I did. Yeah.
I still hold Santa Jaws as the best movie we've covered that wasn't a previous watch. Before Katie joined, Kit and I would have this string of movies that would just be these were unbearable. We have to watch something fun. So we'd be we're gonna do Terror Vision or Jason X, so a movie we had already seen. And
right.
So we got to Santa Jaws at whatever point, and I was like, nothing's topping this for me. This is my favorite movie we've done.
Yes. Oh my gosh, thank you. Yes, Santa Jaws I think has surprised a lot of people, which is funny. Yeah, it's a reaction I often get of people man, that's kind of good. I watched it a couple times. I'm like, oh, thank you.
I literally I think the day after we had recorded the episode, I was like, has this movie been released on anything? And I found that shark bait collection. I was like, I'm buying this immediately.
Oh yeah, you can take the whole Misty Talley shark journey on the shark bait.
I've watched them all enough times to this point where it's I have movies where I haven't watched The Lighthouse yet, but I've seen Ozark Shark 3 times. And
that's what I like to hear. Perfect.
Yeah. So all right, so let's how did you get into movies and into directing and editing? I guess specifically editing, because that's how you started out, right?
Right. Yeah. I right out of college, I guess a year or two out of college, I had some friends that started working at a post-production house in the town that I'm from, Lafayette, Louisiana. And they were they're looking for an assistant editor, and you already know the software, so you should come and apply. And I did, and they paid me very little, but it was amazing experience. And the producers there eventually ended up kind of rejiggering the company, so it was kind of more work for hire than in-house. But we all got along really well, and it was great. It's really great editing experience doing TV movies, because the turnover is constant. So I was editing 3 or 4 movies a year and assistant editing on the same amount. And
wow.
And then I started directing my own short films, just because I think whenever you're editing, it probably depends on your personality, but everything that came in, I'm like, oh man, why didn't they get this? Why wouldn't they do this? I could do this. So I started making shorts, and then I understood why they didn't do that stuff. But then I took it as a personal challenge. And I made a short that did really well. It went to Cannes, got into the Cannes short film corner. And after that, the producers I'd been working with for years at that point were like, oh, you direct? Well, we trust you. You should direct one of our movies. And I was like, well, definitely, let's do it. And yeah, it went well. And then so I've done a lot more with those same buddies since, and currently stretching my legs and trying to get some projects off the ground.
Yeah, I'm sure it's an extremely weird time with being in the entertainment industry of how things are going to be going forward.
Yeah, it's a tricky thing. I have friends filming right now, and they're doing some interesting low budget projects, which I thought might be impossible, but I'm glad that they sort of took that bullet and figured out how to.
Yeah, so somebody's gonna have to go first, I guess. So
Yeah. Oh yeah, and they did it in COVID. They dodged the hurricane, so
yeah,
I'm definitely gonna be giving them a call as soon as they wrap here in a couple of days and say like, tell me everything.
yeah, right. And like I remember hearing the thing that made you want to get into movies was Jurassic Park.
Oh yeah.
Which
Oh yeah.
I have to ask because it's like Katie's favorite movie.
Rightfully so.
Yes.
Yeah, I was one of those weird dinosaur kids that couldn't talk about anything else but
Oh,
dinosaurs.
same. Yes.
Same.
Yeah, I was ostracized for my love of dinosaurs, and boy, did I show them. But no, I I was so excited to go see Jurassic Park because I was freaking out about dinosaurs, and I remember the day it came out. I'll never forget. I'd been bugging my parents for literal months to like how many more days sort of questions. And being driven to school that morning, my dad passed school up and he was like, guess what? We're going to go see Jurassic Park first thing. So that was really cool. And I went in wanting to be a paleontologist and I left wanting to be a filmmaker and making dinosaurs instead of digging them up.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I have like a very distinct memory of going the night Jurassic Park opened to the drive-in, and it started playing, and like the sound wasn't coming through for like the first 15 minutes, and my uncle losing his mind and cursing everybody that worked there out, and I was like, this is a very upsetting experience for Jurassic Park.
Oh, no, that's terrible. Oh, because drive-ins, man, that could have been so cool.
Yeah, I have very like weird memories of like the opening scene with like the box and everything, and then like no sound, and then just like flashes of my uncle losing his mind, and I was just like, this is unfortunate memory
Insert
for
your
this,
own
like,
dinosaur sound.
yeah.
So you missed the shooter.
Well, I've seen it since.
Did any of you guys go see when they like re-released it in theaters for 3D?
I did not.
No.
I
I don't
didn't.
Oh my
know. I
gosh.
wish I did.
It was so amazing. I went one year for my birthday, and I never saw it in the theater or anything like that. I just had seen it like, at home. I had the VHS and whatever. And so that was my first time seeing it in a theater with like the sound, and it was 3D, and it was like the coolest thing I've ever seen.
Oh my God, that's amazing. I loved when they were re-releasing things in 3D. They stopped doing that. But
Now it's
That
just
was-
all movies are in 3D.
right. You always got to have the 3D option these days. But
And so when you directed Zombie Shark, it
mhm.
gave you the somehow baffling credit of being the first woman to direct a sci-fi original, which is crazy that it took that long.
Hundreds of movies.
Yeah, but that kind of rules because we've been leading up to this covering the other three movies before Santa Jaws, and Zombie Shark is another one that we love, specifically because of Lester, the character.
Oh
Western
gosh,
rules.
great.
And then another one of Katie's favorite things is a shark head that I've discovered was called Squiggles.
hmm
The zombie shark head?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
I love that.
Who I heard was stolen as well.
No.
Yes, he's since disappeared after a talk that I did with him making a live appearance, and then he went missing after. So probably my fault for thinking people can control themselves around Squiggles. He's very highly undesirable.
Listen, I have to just be completely honest. I would have stolen him too.
Yeah, I get it.
So what was it like doing the first sci-fi movie?
Man, it was it was the first feature that I directed, and it was it was hard for a lot of reasons. I remember kind of thinking like, oh, I'll only ever have more money than this, so this is okay. But I've only ever gotten less money than this somehow. But yeah, it was a lot of, I guess, with any first feature film, there's a lot of hard lessons and kind of learning where to put your foot down, and shooting on the water is a nightmare in itself. I mean, all that to say, it was a blast. Though it was like summer camp with me and my friends making our first movie. The cinematographer Matt is one of my good friends, and that was his first feature. The producer Sam Clater, we're good buddies, and that was like his first feature that he produced with me. And then we brought on all our friends that have been doing short films with us, and so there's a kind of pitfall there with like a bunch of people that haven't really done it, trying to figure out how to do it. But I mean, boy, it was a blast, and we figured out a lot of stuff, and I learned some lessons, certainly. Zombie Shark's a little bit of like a it's not, I'm not like embarrassed by it, but it's hard to learn how to direct a film. The only way to learn how to do it is to do it, and so there's a lot of things I would have done differently, I guess is what I'm getting at.
Yeah, and like,
I feel like,
okay, Katie.
I was gonna say, I feel like it's also a completely different challenge to try and like direct shots for creatures that like aren't, like they're not real, they're just like CG. I mean, I'm sure there's ways to do that, but that to me seems like it would be like a whole different challenge.
Yeah. And I really, after that, I was really insistent on using practical effects every single time I could. So, the one right after that was Ozark Sharks. And even for like scenes on the porch, like where they're beating the shark on the porch,
Mm-hmm.
I had a shark replica there for them to beat so that it would look like they're actually beating the shark. And we had it like digitally recreated, so their bats wouldn't stop short in weird places and things like that. And I had the fin built, the real, the remote control fin, because I hated the zombie shark. I call it the gray Dorito. That stupid fin. Oh, I was so frustrated because, working in editorial, it's the sort of stuff that had been frustrating me for years about these movies is like, if you have a shark fin moving through water and the water doesn't ripple, then it's going to look wrong every time.
Yeah, that was one of the things when we did covered Ozark Sharks. I was like, I am so impressed with the shark stuff in this one. Like I was, because I was used to like the zombie shark fin thing, and I was just like, I don't know if that's like, I obviously that makes sense that it's like a remote control or whatever, but I remember just being like, I just kept saying like how impressed I was with that, and specifically the porch scene.
Yeah, it makes such a huge difference. And then like on Santa Jaws, we even had stunt players playing the shark. So like when people were getting pulled in, like there was actually a dude in a green suit that would pop out of the water, so the water would be disturbed, and he would grab them by their clothes, so their clothes would actually move and pull them in, so it actually looked like they got grabbed. I've seen
that video, I think on like Instagram or whatever. That's like the process of making that shot into CGI, where it starts with the guy in the green suit.
Yeah, and it makes a difference. Except for that was the first time we've had the green suit in the water, and that was like our stunt coordinator, and that was like, me and him sort of worked that idea out, and I was like, can you do it? His specialty's water stunts, so he was like, oh yeah, but he hadn't worn a green mask in the water before, and we didn't think about it, and he just jumped in a full green man suit. And we forgot about waterboarding being a thing.
Oh no!
So he hadn't cut a hole for his mouth or nose, and he came back up being accidentally waterboarded. But he was fine. He thought it was hilarious. He's okay. But
yeah, I imagine, because those movies you guys shoot for like 2 weeks basically.
Yeah,
that's got to be just like just such a like such a short period of time, and just like a just immediate like training camp of like making a movie, of doing a feature length movie, and like you have 2 weeks, this is going, and then it's like 2 weeks to edit it, and then it's going out on air, so get it right, I guess.
It's a tough. It feels impossible every single time. It's always like the sort of thing where after a day of shooting, I go back to the hotel or whatever and say like then rethink the next day and start my next sort of work day after a full day on set of being like, how am I going to do tomorrow? And, and even though I go in with a really rigid plan, but it doesn't matter because everything just, when you're on that tight of schedule, if you miss one thing, your whole next day is destroyed to try to fit it in. And it's really the greatest puzzle to try to shoot an action movie in 2 weeks. But I kind of like that about it is, yeah, you're forced to do to have some pretty ingenious ideas, even though, you can't kind of sit with everybody in their home or whatever and explain why it's so clever that you're just normal people, hopefully, but, or not normal, but you know what I mean?
Right.
It just works.
Go ahead.
Were you already a fan of like sci-fi and sci-fi movies before, or is this sort of just like what you ended up doing?
Oh, I love sci-fi movies, and I'm just a huge exploitation film fan. I love monster movies. I love B movies, exploitation films, anything real niche genre, horror, all of it. And so I love the Sci-Fi Channel shows like Farscape. I'm a huge like Farscape fan, and so I really grew up like watching a lot of the Sci-Fi Channel, and I always got a kick out of the original movies. Then when I started working on them, they were really having a moment. It was kind of like that time where they were really blowing up and getting a lot of attention. So I was happy about that. Like now it's kind of shifted to a lot of movie of the weeks are more, Lifetime Christmas movies. Christmas is the new Sharks. So,
Right, I was gonna say, did you always have an affinity for sharks and Christmas?
I miss sharks, I'll tell you that. But Christmas is pretty boring without the sharks, in my opinion. But
that's why Santa Claus is perfect, because it's like the melding of two worlds.
Right. And I mean, to be honest, I don't have much interest in directing Christmas movies. Like I produce them and edit them and stuff, but as far as directing goes, it's different. You got to really dig it and be interested, and see it. And that's not me in Christmas. That's me in Sharks, or me in me in horror, or me in something real weird.
I guess because that leading into the idea of the Lifetime movies and then sci-fi movies, that's how I always explain Santa Jaws. Is I'm just like, if Lifetime made a sci-fi shark movie, this is what Santa Jaws is. The family feels straight out of a Lifetime Christmas movie to me. And
right.
That was one of the things I loved about it, which is especially weird because I've heard you say that sci-fi wanted a Stranger Things feel originally. Yes. Which after watching it, I'm like, that I wonder how they reacted to how the movie came out with that idea. Right
yeah, it was a really interesting thing. It just the idea kept not changing, but as we were developing it, and because it all starts with the title, then we had the pitch, and they're four kids, action adventure at Christmas time with a shark, Stranger Things inspired, Goonies inspired. And then as the pitch sort of was being developed with them and the treatment being developed with them, it kept shifting to something that was more, doable. Something more, a family in a home, and something that we could actually shoot and make sure it happened. And so, yeah, there was definitely a progression to that, an evolution, if you will, to become a pretty strong family film.
Yeah, I also feel if it would have ended up, if they would have went we want this to be like Stranger Things, it would have cemented it in that time period where Santa Jaws feels kind of it could just be whenever.
Right. Yeah, definitely. And I kept kind of going back to Home Alone a lot too, which is obviously a Christmas classic, and I'm why don't we kind of make the main character Kevin, if instead of his family leaving him at home, was getting taken out by sharks.
Right.
I mean, I guess that I didn't think about that until now. Like I do get the sort of like Goonies, vibe or whatever, because it's just like a bunch of kids going, like they have to save the day by riding around on their bikes and all that stuff. And all of the other movies that we've covered have been just like adults. So it didn't really click with me until now that maybe part of the charm of that is that it's like younger kids trying to figure it out.
Right. Yeah. And this was I mean, boy, it was a really tall order because part of the issue was we couldn't actually cast children. Like the people in the film aren't children.
Right.
And because on our schedule, you can't shoot a kid for more than 5 days. Or sorry, 5 hours a day.
Yeah.
And so we were like, well, if they're in every scene and we have 2 weeks, there's just the math won't ever work. So we had to find adults that looked like, freshmen in high school and emancipated minors. So that's who ended up, playing the kids, and we had to keep sort of raising their ages. Like initially they were more like Stranger Things age, like middle schoolers. And we're like, we really don't think we can find adults that can play like, 11 or 12. I think we have to minimum go high school here. So it was like a lot of negotiating back and forth and adjusting for those changes. Because it's the sort of thing as we start with like a certain list of demands and then we're like, this is doable, this isn't, and just sort of keep adjusting, and some things stay, some things go. And in the end, sometimes you look back and you're like, it's evolved in such like a weird, unique way, just out of necessity.
Yeah, and like I think, especially for that movie, it kind of works better with that age group because you get like Reed's character of just being kind of like the like angsty teenager as opposed to like 11-year-old or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
They at least pulled off looking younger, like we always talk about like the Saved by the Bell like thing where they're like clearly 30 years old and they're in high school. That's impressive to me.
Yeah, I felt like that was pretty important. I wanted them to at least I knew we couldn't have kids, but nor do I really have a deep desire to work with, non-adults. I'm not really a child person.
No.
Whenever they made the request initially, I was like, y'all, I really don't direct children. That kind of time and energy. I mean, but
I think one of my
cast was very high energy, though. They were. It was like a cool thing about them was as soon as we put them all together, it was like they naturally created a family unit. So I felt really good about the casting for it because they all clicked, which is amazing when it happens.
Yeah, it's always a good sign when like your cast like kind of immediately like gets along. It seems like it would just make for like a much smoother shoot.
Oh my god. Yeah.
I think it translated really well to the movie too. Like you could tell everyone got along, like everyone played off of each other really well.
Yeah, totally. And we never have time to do like any sort of rehearsals or even like a table read, really. So everybody kind of meets each other on the first day, and you just kind of hope it works. So it's really, there's no there's no time to even work out kinks with their, how they relate to each other and their dynamics between each other. So it's a getting lucky scenario.
So jumping back to, because we haven't recorded the Mississippi River Sharks episode yet. We're doing that after this. Jason London in that movie is absolutely perfect. I don't know whose idea it was that of doing him as being like the shark bite character, but it is so good.
I don't want to speak for him, but I feel like that's the most fun he's ever had on a set.
It really looked like it.
Well, we pitched him the idea of what if you played yourself in a universe where you were like an action movie star, and because he's a good friend of the producer of the film, and he was like, "Oh my God, I love it, 100%." And then me and him had worked together in Zombie Shark. So I think, he wasn't shy at all to say like, here's my idea for the character of me. And he was like, I think I want to wear guy liner. I have these like Bugatti boots that I think are like perfect. And like, he designed the character of himself in this alternate universe already whenever he came. And he had a lot of like line ideas, which was really awesome and helpful to be like, what if I said this? And I'm like, yeah, 100%. Like he leaned into it, and it made me really want to make some shark bite movies.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
I'm so mad that there's not a Narc Shark movie.
Oh man. Well, Santa Jaws came from Mississippi River Shark, because that's one of the that he says, and they were like, that's the movie we want. So in a way, it did kind of birth Santa Jaws, but not through the lens of Jason London, action movie star.
That was like one of my favorite. Like, yeah, spoiler, because we haven't talked about the movie yet, so we don't know what each other think of it. But I wrote down every single one of the shark fight titles, and I'm like, why is there not one of these movies for every single one of these titles?
And it's really fun because every 6 months about Sci-Fi would have like a pitching sesh where all the producers that were making content for them would go in with like 30 titles, and they would basically read just movie titles and circle the ones they wanted, which would usually be like one or two. And so a couple of days before that, the producers who were, they're not creatives, they would get desperate, having not really been able to think of anything, and call me and say like, hey, send me a list of 30 shark titles. And so over the years, I just had, usually when they asked me for it, I'd pull an all-nighter if I was like strung out, and I was coming up with things like Sharktoberfest and Sharks in the Hood. And they were like, oh my God. And they'd send them all. But, and almost all of them never got made. A water park shark, that's one that I always wanted to do, and I pushed a lot.
Oh my God, that would be amazing.
Yeah.
I want all of these movies like yesterday.
Right? Yeah. I feel like the sharksploitation boom has slowed down, to be honest, but I feel like it's a sort of something that nobody would complain if it was resurrected.
Oh my God.
I don't
Definitely
think so.
not me.
when Kit and I started this podcast, we had to make a rule that we had to like spread out shark movies, or else that's like we would probably just fall into
all
the
be
hole
shark
of just
movies.
doing shark movies.
Yeah, you could do a shark movie podcast easily.
I've joked about like we should just do at like starting in January, just do a year of only shark movies, but so I know I would hate myself if I didn't ask about El Chupacabre.
Oh, yes.
Because I desperately need that movie. Can you explain to Kit and Katie, because I listened to one of the podcasts you did where you talked about it, and just what El Chupacabre is?
Yes. So I have some treatments, some little pitches that I'm trying to get off the ground. And my favorite one is El Chupacabre, because I'm desperate to do like a 70s style car movie. Like I love, like I say, like exploitation films, and car exploitation is one of my favorite things. Oops, sorry, I thought I'd.
Oh, that's all right.
Forgot my computer dings. So El Chupacabre is the story of a demon car in Mexico that feeds on the blood of unborn babies. And so he attacks this home for pregnant teens, and little does the car know they're armed to the teeth because they work for the cartel. And these pregnant teens just have this like epic battle with this demon car that's trying to like steal their unborn babies.
That sounds
That's amazing.
amazing.
Where's the Kickstarter? I'm in.
Yes.
I feel like everybody would check it out. I mean, the cool thing about it is like, I would really love to make a movie like that where the heroes are, teenage female pregnant Mexican teenagers. I mean, like it's somebody that like there are people like would go through so much but never get put in the spotlight like that as like yeah, they can save the day too,
Yeah.
you know?
And I feel like half the battle of getting someone to watch a movie like that is the title, and that title alone is perfect.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It just works flawlessly. And I have to credit the title is from Sam Clater, who has produced some films with me, and he's was the producer I was talking about earlier on Zombie Shark. So he's come up with some pretty good titles that I then turn into treatments, and we sort of develop together. So he's a really brilliant producer, and so I just didn't want to not give him credit where credit is due there. But yeah,
Totally.
El Chupacabra is one that I'm very excited for, and I feel like really want to try to get that off the ground.
Oh man, yeah, if that ever goes to a Kickstarter or GoFundMe or whatever for whatever reason, I am 100% in. That's such a perfect idea for a movie.
It's an easy sell.
I have just a couple sort of quick ones to wrap up. Are you still doing a haiku and music video a day?
I am, yes. Yes.
What music video was today?
Actually, I haven't watched one today yet.
Oh,
I had a call all morning. You caught me.
what was the last one you watched then?
I rewatched Mike Snow's My Trigger yesterday.
Okay, nice. That's like
They have a really great music video series.
I guess just because I'm assuming nobody else knows what we're talking about, you write a haiku and watch one music video every day.
Yeah.
That's
how I start my work day.
Yeah.
I'm a creature of habit, and that's one that really gets the creative juices flowing.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense too. Like creating something and then like watching something else that someone else created.
Yeah. And haikus are great. They like fire off both part of your brains because it's kind of like math and also creative.
Yeah. And then can we talk about how RoboCop is the best movie ever made?
I will always talk about that.
Oh,
Yes.
I heard like one of the podcasts about you, like they just like rapid fire question. They're like, "What's your favorite movie ever made?" You're like, "RoboCop." I was like, "Yes."
You said quick, but now you've brought up RoboCop, so we're gonna be here for a while.
Yeah.
I mean, it's objectively a perfect film. I don't think anybody could argue that.
No, it's amazing.
I mean, it's perfect. I don't know, how anybody else can have a different favorite film, quite honestly. RoboCop's been made.
Here's the real question. What do you think of the sequels?
Nothing's ever touched the original for me.
Oh, well, yeah, sure.
I'm just and I think a lot of it is just Paul Verhoeven. He just adds the magic there.
Yeah, I'd agree. I like 2.
Yeah, I mean they're fine. They're fine.
3,
I don't hate
3's
them,
rough
but they're
without
no RoboCop.
Peter Weller, but
Yeah, and that's another thing. It's like every piece is perfect, whether it's like Paul Verhoeven, Peter Weller. It's just like if one of the pieces of the RoboCop puzzle is missing, then I don't know. Then it's not quite. It's RoboCop, but it's not quite. It's not my RoboCop.
Yeah. Did you ever see the remake?
No, I refuse to watch that.
Yeah, I watched it.
It's a good choice.
I like the casting a lot, and maybe it's good, but I mean, I don't know. I like, why try to fly that close to the sun?
It's
what a bunch of fools.
It's like
Yeah.
it's so relentlessly down. It doesn't have any of those kind of fun moments of the original. Like I don't remember anybody getting shot in the dick. And
Not really, not one.
I don't
That's
think
garbage.
so. It's like
That's what I'm talking about.
almost all of the movie is just the just RoboCop pining over his family and just as much CG, the way they made his body look. They show him without all of the armor a bunch of times, and it just looks real goofy. And it's
It's weird.
It's weird.
Oh. That is, I'll never watch that just out of principle, I think. And I'll also never watch the Point Break remake. I'm like, what are y'all doing?
Oh, God, I
Stop.
forgot that was a thing.
I know. I was like, what? Ugh. And then I know
Yes.
Spike Lee made it, but I would not watch the Old Boy remake either. Even I had a lot of friends work on it, but I'm like, what? I hate that. I hate that. Those are all perfect movies. We won't touch any of those. What are we doing?
Yeah, it's.
Yeah, I'm
That's
not
how I
gonna
feel
watch
about the
remake
Total
of that.
Recall remake.
Oh, I forgot there was a Total Recall remake too. Jesus.
So did I until like right now, and now
Yeah,
I'm
I
bothered.
you couldn't see me, but I threw my head back in disappointment.
It's weird because there are movies like I like the Evil Dead remake, but like
Yeah.
then there's also like the Dawn of the Dead remake, which I can't stand, and like I don't know, there's some of them that they're good, but like most of the time they're not, or they're just like even.
Give it its own thing. If you do a remake, you got to make it also kind of not a remake. Like there has
Right.
to be some novel thing about it. Like yeah, people have done it right, but most of the time these things should not be touched.
Like I think I saw recently they're doing The Exorcist.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh,
It's
why?
yeah, like how like I don't know, like
I'm gonna call him and tell him to fund El Chupacabra instead
yeah,
and
no
make some.
kidding.
I mean, for real, what the heck?
Yeah.
Just-
I'm like, why are you making remakes when El Chupacabra is on the table?
I'm gonna create one of those
Right
like
there.
those text bots that like text this number and we'll send an email for you. It'll just be that. And I guess my last question. So our podcast started as the idea that Kit and I love all these like quote unquote like bad movies that like or what most people consider bad. And then
Mhm.
it kind of just turned into like us just watching movies sort of based on title or movie posters. We'll just find stuff and be like, oh, let's just watch this and see how it is.
Yeah,
Like,
this looks absurd.
yeah. And so I guess taking the term bad out of it, or maybe a guilty pleasure, like what's your favorite kind of guilty pleasure, quote unquote, bad horror movie?
Ooh, great question. There's a lot to choose from. I There's some of my favorite movies to watch. And you know what's funny? Because as soon as you say it, I like start thinking of ones. I'm like, no, that one's great. No, that one's great. You can't put it in that camp.
Like, that's how.
But
Well, it is
Okay.
it
Okay,
is hard because I feel like a lot of the ones that used to be considered bad are like not bad anymore. They're like just classics.
right.
Yeah, Jaws the Revenge.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So I have one, and it definitely falls in the camp of like, I mean, I think everybody should watch it because it's just rad. But I think I might have to say Hard Target, starring Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Yes.
So
Hard Target rules.
Hard Target, completely underrated film. It's campy, so I think it falls into like that more. I'll air quotes bad, but I think campy is really the word, right? That like
Yeah.
that one's great. And I know it's like John Woo's first English language film. And I mean, okay, so Jean-Claude Van Damme playing a Cajun, I'm Cajun, and him just like sticking to this Belgian accent, having a mullet. I'm just 100% like in, and it was shot like a few blocks from where I live. So whenever I see it, I'm like, oh, I know where exactly. So it has like a special place in my heart, and I make everyone watch it, much to their dismay. But it's something that people come over and I bring up, and they're like, I haven't seen it, and I suspect they probably haven't, and I'm like, well, we're watching it right now.
I feel like you could never go wrong with Jean-Claude Van Damme doing any accent that's not his normal accent.
You really
It's
can't.
Belgian.
Because his work in Street Fighter is chef's kiss.
Oh. Oh my god, The Quest, come on. I'm just Bloodsport. I mean, they're all classics. I love Jean-Claude Van Damme. He really is just like has a really special place in my heart. Any of his films that are camp, I think, are just Time Cop. Come on, Time Cop
is so good.
God, it's amazing. So good. I know, everybody knows he's a household name, but still, I think even for that, he's underrated, in my opinion.
I feel like I always knew who he was, obviously, because like people use the term like Van Dammed that door in and stuff like that. But I had never really seen a lot of movies with him until sort of recently, and they are all just batshit. Like, you just can't look away. And he is just like, it's kind of like, anytime you see, well, we've been watching a lot of really old, like Jackie Chan, like Bruce Lee sort of movies.
Cool.
And he's, in a lot of movies where it's like you're watching the movie and in your mind you're thinking like they literally wrote this movie so that he could do martial arts and stuff, and it's totally fine. Like, you're fine with it, but it's just like everything that happens, you're just like, why? Your jaw is agape like the whole time. It's insane.
Yeah, and practical stunts just like out the wazoo, and like cars actually crashing, and it's like that's the stuff right there, man. That's what I want to see in my action movies. I want to see real car crashes. I want to see people in wigs flipping over cars. Very important.
And it's just like, I love how they just, even doing really mundane stuff like walking down the stairs, they're like doing flips for no reason. And I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, if I could just do a flip, like standing on the floor and just do a flip, I would do it all the time too. I totally get it.
Yeah, it's cool. Or like a split into like a roundhouse kick, or like any of that. Yeah, who wouldn't? You just walk around doing it, I would think.
Oh, it's like I would
yeah.
just do that while stocking shelves at work all the time.
Yes. That there's an amazing documentary about Canon Films, and they talk about Jean-Claude Van Damme in it, and how he got a job in Bloodsport by just like hanging out in the lobby every day, like insisting that like they see what he can do. And one day the CEO of the company is like walking out of the elevator, and Jean-Claude Van Damme throws a kick to his face but stops 1 inch short.
Wow.
and they're like, amazing. And then Bloodsport happened.
That is incredible.
The power in that, just like kick and stop 1 inch short of someone's face.
Yeah.
Show off.
And that guy has never been the same after that happened to him either.
You just got a slow clap or something. Like, I wish I'd walk outside and that would happen to me. That'd be amazing.
All right. Katie, Kit, do you guys have any more questions?
What is your favorite type of shark?
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
That's a good question. I like a bull shark, because unlike other sharks, they're kind of like these, they're like the sledgehammer of sharks. They bite first, ask questions later. You know what I mean?
When we did Ozark Sharks, the plot of it is that the sharks, go into fresh water to have babies or whatever. We don't know anything about sharks, despite watching a lot of shark films.
Look, I know that they can haunt you like a nightmare shark. Some of them can live in the ice like ice sharks.
Exactly. Like, we know all of that, like, stuff everyone knows.
The basic facts, yeah.
Right. But we were like, is this a real thing? We Googled it. It's totally a real thing, which...
Oh, yes.
We didn't know, and now is, just another terrifying thing to add. But can they, like... Are they known... Well, I mean, their names are bull sharks, but are they known for, like, headbutting things?
Yes, they are. They actually are, because a lot of sharks will, like...
question.
Like most other sharks, if they're interested in seeing whether something is food or not, they'll kind of headbutt it a little, or like rub their nose against it, or get close and then turn away and turn back. But bull sharks just go in for the bite and like bump something hard, bite it, and see if it's food.
Just like, yeah, can I eat this? Can they also launch into the air?
Only if you put fireworks in them.
Well, no, like we have.
Way to get to, if you want them to get the most air, yeah, fireworks is going to go.
We do have in
jump out of water, not like a great white, but they definitely do like those sort of surface attacks of seagulls and all that.
Oh no.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I have a fun science shark fact. Sharks see in crystal clear black and white because they're so ancient. They're such like an ancient animal that like the very first sharks were I don't know, invented, evolved before, before cones. So the eyes of a shark existed before color perception was a thing in the animal world.
That
Huh.
is amazing.
Yeah, because they're like primordial DNAs, like that old.
That's wild.
Yeah, I did not know that.
Yeah, sharks are older than color.
Kid has learned two things from you and one of your movies, that he now knows they're a shiver of sharks.
Yeah,
That is
Yeah.
That
crazy.
really caught my attention.
they're not fish, they're
It's like a
congratulations.
We usually will like try and hold back from texting each other when we're watching the movies, other than maybe just like a couple things, and he was just like, I just learned that it's called a shiver of sharks.
And I was waiting for that line the whole movie, and I was like, it got towards the end, and I was like, Kit made that up, and then she said it, and I was like, oh. I just like, you know, a lot of the things about creature movies that I think people just really gravitate towards is that like, you don't unless you're like a shark person, you don't really know like what they can actually do and what they can't do. And so a lot of times that's like really terrifying, but I s- the sh- like I don't sharks are just like crazy, but I just think it adds like I'm just like really impressed with all of your movies. I'm just so impressed, like
Yeah,
Yo.
same.
genuinely, and that there's like real science, and like I don't feel like a lot of the, you know, quote unquote sci-fi movies or, you know, things like that don't have that you know, they obviously Zombie Shark was a little different, but I feel like they don't have like any of the background or like detail of like, hey, this bull shark can actually do most of this stuff. Like that's
Right.
just crazy.
I do a deep think on and like you know, the producers are always like, you're overthinking this, and I'm like, but I don't know.
I genuinely appreciate, like, as somebody that has watched just a stupid amount of shark movies, like, I never in a million years thought I was gonna see a movie where a shark gets a firework jammed into its gill and just like sinks getting blown up by a firework. Get a shark get fed into a wood chipper. Like
Oh,
there
man.
there are
They said
some
it couldn't be done.
there are some
But
amazing deaths in some of your movies, and even just I like one of my favorite things to this day is the scene in Santa Jaws where they're like, well, if the pin brought the shark to life, we can like kill it, and they're like, well, let's take away its teeth. And then
Yeah.
like the idea of like the Christmas ornaments, he just like chomps up and they become his teeth, and then like the horde, and I was like, this is perfect, I love this so much.
Yeah,
I really got into it with the writer about like, if this was your problem, what would you actually do? You know,
Yeah.
and like we went through these sort of like theoretical scenarios, and then like tried to poke holes in them. But then we're like, well, that's the interesting thing about the idea, and so it all went into the movie.
It's perfect. It's so good. Like I almost any time like Instagram or Facebook or Twitter or whatever, when someone's just like looking for a movie to watch, like suggest something, I'm just like, Santa Jaws. Watch Santa Jaws.
I love it. Oh my gosh, you guys are the best. Thank you for that.
Yeah. Do you have anything you want to plug? Anything coming out anytime soon or in the works or whatever?
Let's see. I'm working on some documentaries right now. One of them is top secret. Not there. I'm not directing them. I'm editing them. And the other one's really, it's that one I could talk about. It's called Look Away, Look Away, and it is about the fight to remove the Confederate emblem from the Mississippi state flag. So very at the moment documentary, and I've been very lucky during COVID to be able to fall back on my editorial
Yeah.
experience, and I've been editing like crazy the whole time and taking jobs that I typically wouldn't have time for. So it's nice to kind of reach back in and be able to do that sort of work. Other than that, I have some stuff in development. That's way down the road. They don't even really have titles yet.
Yeah.
That'll probably all. So, but also they're cool things that I think you guys will like, and I'll definitely, tag you on Twitter whenever the time comes for those, for sure.
Oh, great.
Oh
I
my
can't
gosh,
wait.
Hell
please
yes.
do. Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming on. This was a pleasure.
Anytime, just, anytime. I had a blast talking to you guys.
Whenever we get to Time Cop, we're definitely having you back on.
If you guys do any Jean-Claude movies, just let me know. I would be happy to
Absolutely.
be a guest host. I really would.
We will absolutely do that. All right. Thank you so much for coming on. Have a good rest of your day.
You too.
Yeah, we're record Mississippi River Sharks now.
We'll have a fun time watching.
All right.
Or talking about it, rather.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for being on again, and all right. I hope you suffer, but why?